Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. As you can see, it is a glorious day today. We've got clear blue skies, the sun is out, so the perfect autumn day. And I'm standing again in the back of a garden. So this is one of those areas that I'm developing a lot at the moment. So I think you get to see more and more about what I'm doing basically here in the back of a garden. Today's video, I'm going to break up in two parts because I'm planting shrubs, and I'll be planting some grasses and some more autumn beauty. So in today's video, I want to focus on planting shrubs. And you can see already I've got two beauties standing here. So I think this is a great time of the year for you to go to the garden center and check out what you can still find there with leaves on and with autumn beauty. Because we are late in the year, and for me it is important when it comes to shrubs and flowers and everything that I can elongate the season as long as possible. So I'm really intrigued about like what perennials grow long, or what kind of shrubs and trees hold on to their leaves really long. So the first plant that I want to talk about today is a cotinus or smoke bush. I already have 3 different cotinus in the garden, and when it comes to cotinus, they come in a lot of different sizes and growing habits in general, and also in predominantly 2 different leaf colors. So number 1 is they come in these plum dark red leaves, and I'm only growing those so far, and I grow different varieties because I really just love this like dark rich color accent that they give to an herbaceous border. Then the second color that they come in is like a chartreuse green, and I love chartreuse. I think they're very beautiful, and I feel for next year I might introduce 1 cotinus in that color to the front garden, because there I grow euphorbia and different plants that have these chartreuse green accents, and I think it will be nice to have the perennials and then reflect the same color basically in a cotinus there as well. Today I'm going to plant another variety that will have dark red foliage throughout the summer season, and then in autumn it comes with this amazing glowing red crimson color. Isn't it just stunning? Against the sun at the moment, it really seems to glow like rubies. So beautiful. This variety is called Grace, and I think it fits really well because I think it is a really graceful shrub. I've seen it already planted out in the landscape, and it has a really beautiful growing habit. So if you allow it, this variety can grow up to 3-4 meters in height and 3 meters in width, which I won't. I don't want to have the shrub in that size in the location where I'm going to plant it today. I think I'm going to trim it back, so it's about like 2.5 meters maybe even 3 meters. I need to see how it develops. When it comes to the general growing habit of cotinus, they don't form these kind of like dense, lush dome-shaped shrubs. They are a little more loose, which I like because they are airy, they have an airy texture, the sun can come through, especially here in the back of the garden when it's summer and the sun goes down to my left, so to your right basically now. The sun is going to come from the back, and when I am standing in the garden, I see the sun coming through the leaves, and they're almost like glowing dark red, which is beautiful. So those are those things that you should and can sometimes consider, like really observe the light in your garden. Another thing is like the soil condition. What does cotinus like? They are not fuzzy, which is really beautiful. So they will grow pretty much everywhere. And that is also my experience. I've grown it in different locations and different soil conditions, and they were always happy. What I do though, if I plant them, I make sure that I give them a starting fertilizer, and I always use organic bone chips, not only for perennials or for grasses. I also put it on here because in my experience it works well, and it's just a good start for them basically. The next shrub that I'm going to plant is a good one if you are a novice gardener and you've never grown shrubs or anything before, because it is quite dead easy. So this here is a Cornus, and the variety is called Cornus alba sibirica variegata. So the word variegata already implements basically what to expect from the leaves of this one. At the moment the leaves are beautiful because they are in this absolute magical dark rich red color for autumn. They started losing most of the leaves now, so this one holds onto the leaves a lot longer, which is nice. This one just starts fading out a little bit, but variegation, it already shows you like, so in summer the leaves will be with a leaf variegation, which is like green on the inside and white on the outside, which is really beautiful. They are not the kind of shrub that you buy for flowers necessarily. They have flowers, and then they will have blueberries, which are cute and I think good for wildlife. But next to the leaves, I think the best part of this shrub is the winter interest. because I hope you can see it. I come a little closer to the camera. They have the most glorious red glowing stems, basically really ruby red, just amazing and beautiful. And this is something that you should really consider when you plant your garden. And I do have only perennial borders, but I also start making them or parts of them into herbaceous borders. Because when you add shrubs, you can add winter beauty. Because when the perennials and the grasses basically fade out, what you're left with in winter is a big patch of brown, maybe gold if you're lucky when you have the grasses in there. And the Cornus really adds this winter value to your borders because the stems glow in this lovely red color, and it's a lovely addition basically to any kind of garden and border. Important thing about this one is it grows about, I think, 2 meters high and 1.5 to 2 meters in width, if I'm not wrong. Another important thing to say is, like, again, soil conditions, it's not fuzzy, and it likes to grow in full sun or in semi-shade, which makes it a little easier to find a good location for it, because the Cronus likes to grow in full sun. I am also growing it in like a semi-shade condition, but it's better in full sun, while this one here is a little more adaptable. My parents grew quite some of these in their garden in different locations, and they were always performing very well, and they're not fuzzy, they're really easy. Another important thing is I grow it because I want to have a lot of these really beautiful red stems. As the stems mature, they kind of start losing their color. So you should always cut them back basically. The time of year you do it is about February, March, and you can cut them back all the way to the ground. Then they will spring back with a lot of fresh, new, really beautiful growth and shoots, but they won't flower. So what I do, and this is how I learned it, is like, these shoots are basically gonna flower next year and they're beautiful, but then the year after I will cut everything that you see here now back basically, because by that time new shoots will appear from the base of the plant. And then you always have an amount of like fresh, really nice red growth, and the ones that are older you could just cut back basically. But this is up to you. If you really want to trim it back the entire thing, you can do it. It's always going to bounce back. It's not going to be difficult. It's also very tolerant to different climate conditions. So it really tolerates a lot of frost, which is quite beautiful. One last thing maybe to say, which is quite important, how it roots them. So this one does not have a taproot. So it doesn't have like one big root that penetrates the ground and goes in it. It creates kind of like shallow roots, more like a meshy fiber root system. So this can be a little tricky with underplanting because that creates a lot of root pressure basically, and not all the plants like to have a neighbor like this. I'm going to underplant it with an aster, an Asian aster that is called Azran, and I grow Azran in different locations of the garden, and Azran copes really well in full sun, semi-shade, even like shady conditions, and it has a lot of runners basically, so it copes really well with difficult neighbors. So I think that they will be a good combination actually. And also thinking of the coloring, having this like light violet aster, this purple tone next to these dark red leaves and red stems again is just a beautiful color combination. So in the back of a garden I really want to focus on this combination of like red and purple and violet tones. Also, one last thing maybe is it's also beautiful when you think about like different textures and how you can create color in your garden. Of course, the first thing you always think about is like blooms and blossoms and all of those beautiful things, but also think about really adding like the red stems, for example, or red foliage in your garden, because it just adds something different and different heights, different growing habits. So I think this is something that you should maybe consider when you plan out your borders. And even like here where I'm not really planning, I'm kind of like, I walk through it and I just feel like, oh, this might be beautiful, that might be beautiful. And this area is just a little more free-spirited in general, as I said. So what I'm going to do now as a first thing anyways, I will start clearing the area in the back a little bit because there's still some annuals that are not looking great. So I can just prepare the entire area and then I can start planting with you guys. I'd like to show you from this angle why I selected the area for the smoke bush. So I'm standing in the back of a garden looking at the new perennial border. So in front of me you get to see a big patch of cherry red distorta, and if I swing to the left slowly, there is a second big patch. So that you have these big patches of red basically going on, and I feel if in the back there, I hope you see it, I try and point with my finger on it, there it is. There is a smoke bush. So if I have another bright red accent there, and this ruby red that picks up the red from the distorta and also the red from the rudbeckia, from the cherry brandy rudbeckia, is going to be beautiful. Already now you see the leaves are glowing in the sun, and we have, I think it's 12 at noontime now, so it's like the time, lunchtime basically. And also in the evening, the sun will really come from the back and really pierce through the leaves, and you'll see them glowing in this beautiful red. So I think that this is just amazing. And now when I see the dimension and everything, I think it should really grow up to 3 meters probably. Because it's on the slope, it's a little lower leveled. It's not like the same height as it would be in the garden. I want to continue with the same shrub basically then in 2 more locations. So I'm just quickly walking you there where I want to put them actually. So there is one on the left, and here you can still see the fence actually. So I managed to clear all of the branches and everything. It took me a good day in the end, honestly. They were so big, but I'm happy I've done it. So this is all cleared and ready for somebody to fix this entire situation now. And at least Alfie can't escape, so this is good. This is a positive thing about it. So here is an area where I put one of these big miscanthus grasses, and I just put it there because last year I kind of ran out of time. I needed to put it somewhere, so this is where it went, but I'm going to replant it. And this is where I'm going to put the second smoke bush, because then I have one flanking each side of a slope. And I will put a last one somewhere down there at the base probably, which can grow to its full size then. Because down there are just like all different kind of shrubs, nothing special or nice or anything, and I just want to put more interest in there. So I feel by having 3 of those smoke bushes here, it's just this beautiful color accent in autumn. So what I'm going to do now is start planting all of the shrubs. When it comes down to planting shrubs, there isn't really a lot that you need. So all I need basically is my spade. I've got a bucket where I can put the soil in. I've got a watering can with some water, because when I plant something, I water it in once, and that's pretty much it. And then I just got my bag with the organic bone chips, and that's pretty much it. So all I got to do now is just quickly remove the mulch that I put in here, because I mulch everything, the entire area. And after planting, I'm just going to mulch everything in pretty well again. So the pot's not that big. The soil here is generally quite all right, so I'm not really going to improve the soil or anything for the shrubs. Depending on your soil conditions, you might want to put like a little bit of fresh compost or fresh garden soil, if you just buy like a bag at the garden center, for example, into the hole. So then just make the hole a little bigger. Quite important as well is when you plant shrubs that you plant them level. You don't want that the shrub sits deeper necessarily in there, and also you don't want that it sits higher, because when it sits higher the roots might be exposed, and that is definitely not what you want, because then they can dry out, and worst case your shrub is going to die back. So always make sure that you plant them pretty level to how they were in that bucket actually. Let me just see, let me put it in there. Not deep enough, still need to get a little bit more out. Almost there though. I think that should be all right. Uh-oh. Don't drop the watering can, now that would be it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Just maybe a handful more, or 2. Okay, so what I do now is I put, just as a starter fertilizer, a good, like really a good handful of the bone chips in the planting hole. Just mix them all under, because the soil is quite lofty in here. And then water it in already now. You can also do it later though, but I just prefer when there's water in the hole and your plant can just soak it in immediately. So let's just get it out. I think it hasn't rooted in that well, to be honest. No, it hasn't. It's kind of what I thought already when I bought it in the garden center. Doesn't matter. That's still going to be okay. I'm going to mulch it in for winter, so that is the important thing. Make sure that it is definitely well protected for winter. When you plant something around this time of the year, you can plant shrubs. I planted shrubs, I planted I planted a lot of different things really late in the season, and I was always successful with it. I never had any issue or problem or anything with that. And I think that it works out pretty well in these climate zones here. So just backfill with a little bit of the soil, just on top of it. And the funny thing is the soil here looks quite grey and powdery, which it is actually, it doesn't just look like it, but it must be like full of goodness because whatever I planted here on the slope was growing so well. So sometimes it really surprised me because I thought, ooh, the soil might not be the best just looking at it from the color, but things are looking so good on it that I feel you can't always judge it by the color. Okay, just watered it in a little bit more. Just a little bit more of the soil on top of it. Yep. Just put the mulch back on top of it. What you can do as well if you plant something, for example, in spring, going into summer, is that you build this little, let me just put it aside so I can show you probably better, like this little circle around it. You just mold it basically by the soil, and when you water it, what happens is the water just doesn't wash away, it just stays closer basically to your shrub or to your plant that you're planting. I don't do it now because we're going into winter and it's going to go into dormancy very soon anyway, so I'll just make sure that I mulch it in very well now so it's protected from frost and everything. But this is in general a quite good sheltered area, so I kind of think that it's going to be happy here. You still see this shrub has 3 branches. This is also why I selected it, because I thought it has a good, like the bones are quite good. It has like a good starting point, and they are all kind of staked to one stake now. For winter, I'm going to leave it staked as it is. Next spring, I'm just going to remove it and see how it grows, because I don't want that it grows like this pillar, basically. I really want to make sure that it, just to allow it its natural growing habit and everything. So what I'm going to do now is just plant the last 3 shrubs, like the Cornus. There I'm just going to speed it up again because it is the exact same process of what I'm doing basically. So what do you guys think? I think it's just really beautiful with the red mum on the front here, and then maybe you get to see like the last of the red dahlias is still blooming here. So we just get a little closer there, and then now in the back, the smoke bush with its beautiful glowing red leaves, really against the sun. I hope I can make it without a sun flare now, but you get to see the contrast of this beautiful artichoke that I started from seed earlier this year. And I can't believe to what size it grew here, because normally when I think like Baltic Sea in Poland, normally I don't think artichoke, but clearly it's loving its life here. Hasn't flowered, so I hope it survives winter, but anyways, if it doesn't, I was just happy for whatever it did. So the smoke bush, really glorious. Can't wait for it to grow and bigger each year and really get to enjoy these absolute stunning leaves and the display that it gives me. And if I just go down one layer, I can show you the Cornus basically. So a little bit of a sun flare, but it's all right, I think, for you guys. So here I have 3 layers, just like mini steps basically. And I put 1 Cornus on each layer. So it's kind of like this lovely staggered look happening here at the back, just in front of this fence that I built with all of the cuttings that I have from the garden. And just as a close look again, this is basically how the autumn foliage is looking on the Cornus. So really beautiful darker red tone, and I can't wait for more stems to appear next year and really have a lovely display here. So one last word about basically what I've done here. Oh, there's, hello, my shadow. So this is where I grew all my annuals basically, and I just cleared it because they were not good anymore. The zinnias were not looking good anymore, the cosmos and the calendula even had mildew. So what I'm leaving actually are the gladioli, because they still have really good foliage, and I just want to make sure that they can get all the goodness from the foliage into the bulbs so that I have really nice strong looking bulbs for next year. And of course the dahlias. I mean, I'm not going to take out the dahlias. They are still blooming beautifully. Like if you look at it, the creme de cassis here in the back, absolutely stunning, produces more and more buds, and they're still opening, which really surprises me. And we're not even having a frost night in our forecast, so I don't know how long I'm going to have dahlias, but so much longer than I would think. And one thing that I'm just seeing here, because I feel like almost every second video I'm telling you like, oh, these were the last of my pumpkins, and then I find more and more pumpkins. So I knew that there were 2 pumpkins here, but in total I found 5 pumpkins again. So this is basically my pumpkin harvest of this year. I kind of feel like all my videos are kind of like about pumpkins at this point. But Halloween. Halloween is actually past already, but Thanksgiving is coming soon. So I know that I can definitely use some of those pumpkins for Thanksgiving. Yum. You guys, that is it for today's video. One last word I just want to say, because I haven't said it before, about the Cornus, is that they were heavily pot bound. And if you haven't seen my video where I was planting autumn anemones, I explained what pot bound is. I quickly want to say it. Pot bound means when a plant sits too long in its pot or in its container, the roots start kind of like rooting around in that pot. And when you take it out, you need to make sure that you kind of try and break them loose, because otherwise the roots will continue growing just in a round circle as they were growing in the pot, and that is not ideal. For Cornus, they are quite vigorous, so it wouldn't be so much of a problem, but as a hint of advice, always try and do it. As you can see, I'm standing in front of a garden shed because in the back of the garden we have so much beautiful sun, which is gorgeous of course, but not good for doing a video, because I tried and I was like, oh, my skin color is white yellow, and Halloween is over, so I don't need to be a ghost anymore, so I can be a normal gardener again. And I got to show you how everything is looking in front of the garden shed, because we did a little video together here and things are looking really beautiful. Like look, all the mums are in full color, really, really beautiful, not fading out anything. I didn't need to do any deadheading or anything, so I'm really happy about it. So hope you enjoyed today's video. This was part 1. Tomorrow will come part 2. And maybe I could even inspire you of trying one of those shrubs yourself if you don't already have them in your garden. Who knows? I'd be very happy if you leave me a comment, just your thoughts, whatever you think about it. And until then, I'd be really happy to welcome you tomorrow in my garden again. Take care. Bye.